Hi everyone and welcome back to another video with me, Shruti. You're watching Living Our Ascension. This is basically going to be a series of videos that I do on astrology. And, because what happens is that, astrology is one of the tools that I used along my process of ascension and enlightenment, to really come into myself. And as you might know, one of the most important things about ascension is know thyself, is coming into a knowing of what you are at a soul level. And astrology was one of those things that really helped me. And certain aspects of astrology more than others, because you could really get into astrology into lots of details, but there's certain aspects of it that I wanted to speak about that are more important than others perhaps for the ascension path. And one of these things is the placement of the north node of the moon. And I really wanted to make this video especially for those of you who are perhaps haven't delved into astrology yet, or you don't know, you're beginners. And that's fine, because I'll be showing you how you can calculate it yourself. It's actually not like a calculation. You just have to see what sign it's in, what house it's in, and then you just need to listen to my explanation for it and see if it gives you some tips. Because I remember that, the position of the North Node, it shows us what our destiny is in this life, but it also shows us, those areas of our life where we fall the most, perhaps which are the most challenging for us, areas that are quite unknown. It can often show us where we have addictions, the challenges that we have, and those are actually the areas that we are really obsessed with. And that's why when we don't get it in the moment, we sort of cling to the lower aspect of that energy, and we that's where the addictions come in. And but once we know what the higher aspect of that same energy is, then we can use it in a more productive way, and that actually becomes our destiny. The North Node is the North Node, so basically, is not a planet, like you have the sun in a certain sign, you have the moon in a certain sign. These are all physical planets. But the North and South nodes, they represent these points. They're just points in the sky. And you can say that that's where a certain high level of energy comes in. So it's kind of like, the energy is higher than what the planets represent. So even though they're not physical, they actually represent the point of, if you look at a person's life and you see that they went through the process of enlightenment within themselves, and you see how they did that, like what events caused that more specifically, and what realizations then led them to do that, like what were the main themes. One way that you can see that is through astrology. And so the position of the North and South nodes can really show us that. So I hope that it is with that end that I'm making this, that I hope that this can help you. So if you're subscribed to this channel and you see 12 different videos, because there's 12 positions in astrology depending on what sign it's in, then that's the reason why that I'm putting out so many. And I don't plan to put out lots of different astrology videos, so don't worry about it. It's it's not going to be an every day or every week thing. If you see lots of videos uploaded at once, that's the reason why. Or there might be one after the other, I'm not sure yet. So if you're watching this and this is not your sign, just wait for your sign to come. And so what I'm going to do is, first I'm just going to give you a little bit more of the introduction, and especially you need to check which house and sign it's in, so that you can then find that video on my channel related to that house and sign and listen to those two videos. So what you need to do is, if you don't know, if you already follow astrology and you already know, you follow a certain house system, because in astrology there's different systems, house systems, which can, and depending on which system you use, the sign, not the sign, but the house position most likely of your South and North node can be different. So if you already use astrology, then you can use whatever house system you use. That's fine. You can listen to my interpretation for it. But if you don't, then I follow the whole house system, and I really like this system. And it's also the simplest to understand as well, so it's quite easy. I will explain it in just a second. It's not hard, so don't worry about it. So what you need to do is click the link below this video. When you check the description below this video, you'll see a link to a website where you can go and you can enter your birth information, and it'll generate your astrology chart. And on that astrology chart, then you can check your north node, where it is. And so the information that you need before you go to this website is your birth date, the place and the place of birth, as well as the exact time of birth. So if you don't know your time of birth within like 10-15 minutes, if it's not accurate, then only check the sign of your north node, because the sign should remain the same, no matter, as long as you have the day right, the birth day. But the time, changes the house that it's placed in, like where on the wheel it is. If you don't know your birth time, then just listen to the video for the sign. So for example, my north node is in the sign of Taurus, and it's in the 11th house. But if I don't know my time of birth, I will just look at north node or Rahu in Taurus, and I won't really check because I don't know which house it's in, because I don't know my time of birth. But if you know that your time of birth, which should be most of you, and this needs to be accurate, so check it from like a birth certificate or another kind of official document. If you know your birth time, then enter that information, and you'll know which house it's in as well. And then listen to 2 videos then. So first listen to the house video, and then listen to the sign video. And I've drawn a chart here that I can show you an example. When you go on that link and you enter the information, one of the charts on that page will be a circular one like this. So check the circular chart and look for this RA. This is Rahu, or it's also called the north node. In Vedic or Indian astrology, it's known as Rahu. The north node is known as Rahu. And the opposite is Ketu. Ketu is the south node. And south node shows what our past has been like, what our default patterns are. And Rahu shows what we are coming into, what our destiny in this life is, what purpose we are here to fulfill. So now, as you can see, we're going to focus a little bit more on the north node, because that is what we need to fulfill, and the south node is basically what we're leaving behind. So you'll see me mention this more, much more, but this whole axis is important. So the Rahu or the north node, for my chart, is in the sign of Taurus and is in the 11th house. And how do you know this is the 11th house? Is because the first house is always this one. If you look on the chart, on the western side, it'll be over here on the western side. This is the first house always on a circular chart. So mine is Cancer. So this is 1. You always count the first house first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you get to 11. So this is the 11th house. So my north node is in the 11th house. And like I said, it's in the sign of Taurus. So here I've written down, so write down these 2 things, that north node or Rahu is in the 11th house. So this is the video I'll see first, north node or Rahu in 11th house. The video I'll watch second is north node or Rahu in the sign of Taurus. So these are the 2 videos now that I need to watch. So once you go on this website and you have this figured out, you write these 2 things so that you don't get confused, then you can watch these 2 videos. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this video, you have any questions, you're confused, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and help you out if I can. And now let's begin, with a little bit of explanation of what the north and south nodes are, and then I will, proceed to the position. So the south node in astrology is known as, our past. If you believe in past lives, it shows us what kind of a past life we had, what we were in our past life. If you don't believe in past lives, then it's something that the past that we have had in this life, our childhood, when we were growing up, let's say like the first 20-30 years of our life. And the north node then shows us what is our actual destiny in this life. And the south node, representing our past, shows us what we're good at. It's something that we are quite good at already, that we have established ourselves in. Imagine like if it's like a past life, we've actually done that already. It's something that we have are quite mature in, but that doesn't mean that we have fully mastered it. And then how do we master it though? It can be an area in life, the South Node, where we are a little bit dissatisfied. And how do we make that complete? How do we become satisfied in it and become fully complete in that life, in that area of life, is if we develop where our North Node is placed. So we are, lots of astrologers say that you need to let go of the position of where the South Node is, like whatever the South Node represents in your life, let go of that area and only focus on the North. It's not really exactly like that, but the thing is that wherever your South Node is sitting, you just need to it's something that comes easily to you, that you can fall back upon, but there isn't as much of an dedicated effort needed in that area of life, because if you overdo that, then it becomes stagnant. So how it will expand is when you go towards what the North Node represents, and then not only will that area, unknown area of the North Node of your destiny flourish, but also this area that you are good at but have not fully mastered, this also becomes mastered. So the two opposite ends come together, and that's when transcendence happens, because that is how we transcend duality. So all of us in our heads, in the beginning, we have why we haven't become enlightened yet is because there is some part of us that considers something as good or bad, weighs this one as better than the other, and the other is not something we have fully gone into, we haven't fully embraced. So when we actually go in this direction of the North Node, we fully embrace it in a grounded way, in a way that's not ungrounded, or trying to do it in a quick way, in a superficial way, but we actually delve into it there. And this is something that, where the South Node is, we're quite developed in it. When the two of them come together, then both of them grow. It becomes that yin yang, that balance, and that means that through that area of life and the struggles that we've had within it, and then the realizations, we transcend. So when we truly do that, that's when the enlightenment process happens. And if you check the charts of people who perhaps have reached a certain level in their enlightenment, you can see that, the events that happened in their life that caused that, both the problems and the transcendence, a big part of it is related to this axis. So this is the axis, according to me. I've never read this, but according to me, this is how we transcend duality. So that's our life purpose in this life. You might have a certain job, like let's say you're a teacher, or let's say you're a doctor, because the sign of Virgo is a doctor. Let's say your sun is in Virgo, or you are a doctor, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you came into this life to become a doctor. It's just your job, it's what you do. Let's say your North Node is in another sign that represents being a pioneer or something, then your main purpose was to become a pioneer, to do something in a new way, to really develop that, to forge new paths. And because your sun is in Virgo, you do that as a doctor. You could have easily done that. If your sun was somewhere else, you could have easily done that being a pioneer, being a teacher, being, a homemaker, whatever it might be. But the main purpose for which you incarnated in this life was not to be a doctor, it's to be a pioneer, to do things in a different way. It's just an example. So it shows us, the position of our North Node shows us what is our destiny in this life. It's always an area that is the most darkest in our horoscope, that we don't know. That's the unknown region. It represents our unknown. The South Node, our past, represents the comfort zone, the default patterns that we keep going back to. And then what happens, like when we keep doing something that we have done, it becomes boring, it becomes redundant, there's some stagnation there. And the only way that it can expand is if we open up new areas of life, and then we bring those skills, then they merge with something we already know. So that's what the North Node represents. And where we have the North Node, it's actually this really high vibrational energy, and we will be doing things in a very different way, in a more eccentric way. And we can be quite eccentric with it, which I'll explain through every sign that when we do that. But what the North Node represents, is also something that when we first go into the unknown, like when we go into the darkness, the dark forest, we're going to fall down a few times. We can't see anything. We're not familiar with that space. But it's something that, really draws us in. It's the mystery. It's the most mysterious thing, and it's like we can be obsessed with it, with that area of life, and we really want it. We desire it, But when we go into it, we can first latch on to the more superficial things that it represents, and those become the main obsessions in our life, the main personality, defects, quote unquote, even though there's no as such defects. But those become the most problematic areas in our life often. But when we learn to see what the higher aspect of that same energy is, and we put our efforts there and we keep going it, because in the beginning, when we try and do it the right way, something, instead of grabbing onto this more superficial aspect of it, when we go deeper into the unknown, into the darkness, we will fall quite a few times. So it's really important for us to be on that path, to keep at that path. And the North Node is said to mature around the age of 42 or 45, and that's when we truly learn, after falling down quite a few times, the lessons of what it represents. But if you are on the path of enlightenment, of ascension, this can happen much before. You don't have to wait for that default time of 42 and 45. Perhaps things will become more grounded at that time, but you can really accelerate your journey as well. So I don't want to keep speaking about this and make this too long, but that is what the North Node represents. And when you combine this North and South Node axis, this becomes transcendence. And I'll be speaking about, depending on your placement, what that axis is for you and what you need to unify, and the negative experiences that can happen, as well as how you can transcend them, and what the positive side of that is. And in the comments below, please let me know if you resonate with this, what particular challenges you've gone through. Let us all know. And finally, I also want to say that I have astrology readings on my website as well, so please check them out. They are relationship readings, because relationships are another aspect of life through which we find out what we are as a soul, because all the relationships that we meet in our life, they reflect our own soul. So it's the beloved path, and there's lots of people out there who are looking for their soulmate, their twin flame, and that's what this reading is all about. It shows you what kind of partners come into your life, at a physical level as well, what their qualities are, but also at a higher level, what that union, that marriage looks like, and it shows you what that union with yourself looks like, so it brings insights into that. They're very interesting codes. So that's one of the readings I have. It's called Soulmate Astrology Codes reading. And then the other reading I have compares two charts. So for example, your own chart, and if you have a partner. So if you're single, you can go for the first one. It'll bring you insights into your default patterns as well. What holds you back from fulfilling relationships, what your default patterns might be, anything in the way. Because when we come into that conscious awareness of it, then things start to change, and then we draw partners that represent that higher energy instead, for more fulfilling relationships. And the other reading that I have compares two different charts. So for example, you and your partner, you give me their birth information as well as yours, and I compare them and speak about the dynamic of this relationship, when the two energies come together, what the clashes are, what the problems can be, and how you can transcend them, as well as what the higher union looks like because the highest union that we can have on this planet is of service. You are here to serve at the end of the day. You are a creator being, so you are here to create something. You are here to serve yourself and all of creation. And when two people come together, they can build something that is even greater than what they can do individually to create, to serve. And there's charts that are not just the main astrology chart. There's these divisional charts in astrology as well, and all of them can things like that can show what that purpose is, what our higher purpose is. So when we know that, we come into it it ourselves first, and then we draw partners that represent it, and so it becomes that actual soulmate union, and not just, you know, any random physical partners that we might have that only fulfill us at a socio-economic level, but also at the higher level. Anyway, so those are the readings I have on my website. Please check them out in the astrology services section of www.LivingOurAscension.com. You can find the link below this video. And now let's move on to the sign position. So if you have Rahu, or the north node of the moon, in the 5th house or in the sign of Leo, because they both mean similar things, then this is the video for you. And so what happens, you know, the sign of Leo is where your north node will be placed in, and the south node, like I explained before, will be in the opposite sign. So we'll begin with the explanation of that first, because that shows what your past has been like, or, you know, something that you are coming from, which is your comfort zone. And you know, your south node will be either in the sign of Aquarius, or it'll be in the 11th house. And what that means is that, you know, you are used to fitting into society, almost like, you know, the people who have this position, they are very comfortable with their social identity, you know, like how they fit in as a group. They're very aware of that, you know, how and it's something that they do very well. Like a lot of their identity in the past, you know, that they clung to, has come from what the group dictates, what the social dictates are of their society, of the social group, you know, their friend circle, network circles, etc. And their past has been defined by this a lot. But what may have suffered is, you know, their own personal power, like, you know, showing who they are, you know, inside themselves, their individuality, because that is what the opposite sign is all about, the sign of Leo, or the 5th house. And so in this life, you know, they're asked to, you know, you already have a strength with belonging in social circles, and, you know, just fitting in, you know, with everyone without having this need to be special, and, you know, without like trying to, let's say, compete with others and things like that. So it's something that, you know, you have already done in your life. It's like a strength you already have. But how it improves further in this life for you is, you know, by going in the opposite direction. When you embrace a little bit more of the opposite side, that's when this will improve. Because if you really think about it, you know, when we only identify with one side, so for example, you know, this is a social axis, which means that, you know, you may know how to fit into society, but if you're just existing and, you know, following the dictates of the group, kind of like, you know, you're faceless, you know, sometimes you'll feel like your own identity is not validated by others. You know, they're not giving you enough importance, or what you're saying. Like, I know some people who have this position, and they often complain about this, you know, the fact that, for example, they'll be doing something, like it'll be a group of people doing a certain activity, and, you know, they're very good at networking. Like if you have this position, you're very good at networking. You have different kinds of social circles of whatever your interests are, and you know how to, you know, connect with people. You might even be the kind of person who connects one person to another, you know, and you're very good at that, with networking yourself and also connecting different people together, and even large organizations, because the sign of Aquarius, or the 11th house, relates to that. You know, that's an area that you're comfortable with. But how that grows for you further, you know, because there can be some disillusionment, some disappointments related to that, and they will be because you don't feel noticed for what you are uniquely. And you know, often we can blame this on other people, but when we experience that as coming through our relationships and through our networks, it's often because we haven't acknowledged it ourselves enough. Like we haven't made space for it in our lives enough. We don't express it as much as we should. And so in this life, you are asked to do that. You are asked to you know, find what it is, because the sign of Leo, or the 5th house, is about individuality. It's about your individual talents. It's about creating your own kingdom. being good with your self-expression that is unique to you, and just being free with that, how you are unique, because all of us, we need to belong to society and fit in as an equal, and see everybody as an equal and contribute to society that way. But there's strength in numbers, there's strength in groups and community, but at the same time we can only know how we belong in a community if we first know what we are, as an individual. So in this life you are asked to explore that, and life will throw you into situations where network circles sometimes don't work out, because that's your comfort zone. It's something and it may have worked for you in the past, but there will be disappointments related to that, and those are actually opportunities for you to do something on your own, to explore something different. So often, like, I know some people who have this position, and they will sometimes because the sign of Leo or the 5th house is about these creative activities, it relates to also your own business, for example, speculative business, whatever that might be, and so you might be thrown into you might have these desires to create your own kingdom, to have your own personal power as well, to create that space where your own personal power can be exerted, and not in a way that's a lower way, but it's just like knowing what your special, unique self is like, and being able to shine that. And each time that you do that, and you take steps on your own, and to be comfortable to express that without feeling guilty for shining your own light, then you will find that there will be network circles that come around, new ones, or or the ones you already have, they come around in a new way. So there'll be new energy related to networks and support and community that will come to support you. But the first, it's not about relying on the ones you already have, because there can be some stagnation there. That's something you've done before, and there'll be some disappointments with just doing that. So there can be this obsession in this life, and a lot of energy spent, as well as a lot of opportunities in developing your own individuality. And so at first, you might make more mistakes there, because this axis can be related to power as well, because we are dealing with on the Aquarius or the 11th house side is about social power, and then the other side of Leo, which you are developing in this life, is about personal power. So and the way that you balance this axis, and the way of transcendence for you in this life, because like I explained in the introduction, when we balance the axis, this Rahu Ketu axis that we have been given in this life, that's what really leads to the transcendence of duality, because this can be our deepest the deepest thing that we hold in our life, and kind of like our soul mission. So for you, that is asked, what is asked is this balance of first knowing what you are as an individual and exploring that. And when you come into that and learn to build your own kingdom, this balance along with social groups. So there can be some tug of war when it comes to exerting your own power versus the power of the group, and finding your place in groups, and knowing your own power in it. So the only way that balance happens is when we know both. When first of all we know ourselves and what we are uniquely gifted in, and we find power in that, we are able to fully sit in it, be comfortable with it, be comfortable expressing it as well. So any opportunities that you find to do that, are great. So for example, I know somebody who has this position, actually the person I'm seeing has this position, and they, for example, because their Rahu or the North Node is in the sign of Leo, and Leo is the sign of the king, it's like I said, it's about self-expression. It's a very creative sign as well. So it also relates to like business, owning your own business and stuff like that, or creative activities, because Leo is related to performance and theater and stuff like that, and they went to a foreign country, and they were just skating, because they're a skater, and they were with a couple of their skater friends, and suddenly this theater director spotted them and asked them to be a part of a production, and now they're an actor, once a year for a couple of years now they go off to Europe, even though they live here in the United States. and they go off to Europe and they take part in this production as an actor. So you see how wherever your North Node lies, it'll bring you those sudden opportunities, you know, just out of nowhere. Like, you know, they're not trained in theater or anything, but now they're a theater actor. So it'll bring you these sudden opportunities wherever your North Node is placed. And in the sign of Leo, that can be different kinds of self-expression where you get to shine, you know, as the star that you are. And it can be something creative, or it can also just be you know, like I said, it's not always creative activities. It can be, you know, your business, and at a very simple level, it's just self-expression in some way. It's creating your own kingdom and building it, where you will get to shine and express your unique gifts. So let me know if you have any more thoughts on this, you know, if you have this position and what your life's been like, what those what you find your gifts to be, and what kind of things you find challenging, and let me know in the comments below. Let me just see if I've made any more notes in this. It can lead to sudden fame as well if you have this position. It's not so much in the fifth house, but if you have you know, the North Node in the sign of Leo, it can lead to the sudden recognition as well, because you know, Leo is one of those signs, like I said, of the king. And other people that I know with this position also say that sometimes people put them on a pedestal. They expect too much, you know, from them, because one of the things that Leo rules is responsibility as well, you know, just like the king is responsible for his kingdom. And people can often recognize this quality in you, because wherever we have the North Node, we have a lot of energy, and it's like this foreign unique element, you know, you'll stand out from others related to that life area. So Leo is about this self-expression. So it may be that in the beginning you are afraid of doing that, but also within you lies this eccentric way of doing it, so people will recognize it whenever it comes through. And sometimes people complain about the fact that, you know, people put them on a pedestal just like a king, you know, and then, you know, they feel very responsible. But, you know, in your life you may be asked to do this in a balanced way, of course. You know, it's not about putting people on a pedestal, but you will be recognized in that way. So that's something that's really really good, you know. Also, you can have these creative bursts, you know, you want to create your own kingdom. And for example, another person that I know who has this position, they have a lot of different companies that they have started, you know, and they're passionate about a particular subject, and they formed from a young age, you know, they got into forming their own companies, little companies related to that. And it's like this cutting edge technology, about new technology and things like that, you know, veganism and stuff. Because like I said, you know, Leo also rules like businesses, like your own business and stuff like that. So whatever that creative expression is in your heart, whatever brings you that joy, you will be doing it out in the world, because Leo is a sign of action, you know, it's a masculine sign that's related to these actions. Leo also rules the sun, and the sun is about this, you know, just this energy that it radiates out, and everything grows and flourishes because of it. It's very generous. So you'll be put in the role of that, you know, of being a provider somehow, sometimes as well, if it's in the sign of Leo. Then let's see, don't be afraid to stand out. That can be something in the beginning that you feel. You can go back and forth with it, you know, have the sudden drive to, you want to stand out, and then suddenly be afraid that you won't be accepted for your unique the unique soul that you are, you know. So there can be this push and pull related to that, because you want to fit in the group, the social circle, but you also want to be recognized for what you are. So the way is to really balance this, and to not rely on circles where something is stagnant, you know. You might be comfortable in it, but it's time to try out different activities on your own and build your own kingdom, so to speak. And through that you will attract, you know, the right circles that will support you. Find out what brings you joy, you in particular, what brings you joy, not what brings, you know, the different individuals of the group. So like I was giving you the example before, you know, somebody I know who has this, they do certain activities, they have different activities that they love, and they are part of these different circles, so they benefit from it also, you know, because then these groups, they support them. But at the same time, sometimes they feel like those people aren't listening to them, you know, what they have to say, what their particular how they want to do that activity, or let's say it's an activity that they want to do, where they have to go to do it. Like they sometimes feel that their expression is overruled by somebody else in the group, or the dictates of the group, you know. So whenever you find that happening, that means that you know, you're not really fitting in. You might think that yes, I'm fitting in, you know, but if it's coming at the cost of compromising your individuality, then that's the time that you know that you should you know, you have to make space for it somehow in your life, either by speaking up, or you know, through another way, through doing it on your own, or finding another group somehow. And there will always be support, as long as, you know, whatever's in your heart, it needs to find expression, and that is your life goal in this life. That is how you will transcend as well, you know, this duality. And yeah, then you need to build that kingdom of what brings you joy, because Leo is related to the soul, is related to the joy of the heart, and in that you will be able to find common ground with others. And in this life you have to be the special one as well, you know. So with the South Node or Ketu in Aquarius, or the 11th house, you are very good in, like, you know that everybody should be treated as an equal. So it's all about, you know, equality with you, and about how everybody is an equal and fits together. Like we all come together in a community as an equal and contribute. You're very aware of that, but you know, don't let that you know, that's a very good thinking to have, but sometimes you can compromise on being the special one that you are. So you're here in this life to be the special one, you know, when you really give that expression, not in a negative way, but like I keep saying, if there's something that brings your heart joy, you know, it's your right to be able to shine that. And so that needs to be created in your life in a balanced way, in a grounded way. And don't be defined by the masses or the social structures. And you are here to build something unique, you know, and sometimes it can be quite eccentric, but that's what you're here to do. So again, let me know what you think about this, if it resonates with you, or any problems, any special talents, whatever you have related to this position. Let me know in the comments below.